Greetings, fellow Gorehounds, and welcome back to a Blood Splattered vlog. I'm the Horror Guru.
And I'm Count Jackula.
And today we're going to talk about Ash, the latest science fiction body horror mind emphasis on mind from director Flying Lotus.
Of Kuzo fame.
Yes, which is definitely more of a mind than this is a mind. Still, that you could tell was made by the same person, even though they're completely different movies.
Yeah, and for you music fans out there, yes, this is the same Flying Lotus that did Captain Murphy and Duality, the concept album about running your own cult.
Absolutely. This movie is a little bit more of a straightforward movie compared to Kuso, which was way more experimental than this is.
Yeah, it was way weirder in tone and in structure.
Absolutely. This movie is about a group on a space station on another planet. They are attempting to colonize another planet because Earth is in trouble. One day, our main character wakes up and everyone's dead and she has to figure out what the hell happened. And that's basically...
Yeah, that's the opener.
That's what happens over the course of this movie. Now, we can't tell you exactly what happened because that is the spoilers of the movie.
Yes.
But I will tell you, if you were me, you probably figure out the gist of what happened within the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. If after a few minutes you're like, I bet this is what happened, you're probably right.
You're probably right. It's a very common trope for this kind of movie to go that way, so it's not entirely unpredictable.
Yeah.
That being said, I do enjoy this movie. The visual style of this movie alone is
the look of the movie is really good.
It makes it worth seeing on the big screen, if nothing else, because it's gorgeous. The mixture of colors, the weird psychedelic stuff he does,
yes,
and all that stuff. I was not as much of big a fan of the quick cutting PTSD scenes he does a lot throughout the movie, but that's a minor complaint.
Yeah. Although it's worth mentioning. It doesn't ruin the plot. It doesn't ruin the movie, and it's most importantly, it's not there all the time.
No.
But yeah, it is a little like, okay, I think I got it. You know?
And there is a point halfway through the movie where I'm just like, okay, we got it. I don't think you need to do this again.
Right. Yeah.
And then it keeps doing it.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, no, we're good. We got it.
But that's a minor complaint because overall, I do like the way this movie concludes itself. I do have some criticisms of the movie, though. I don't like the structure of this movie.
Yeah. How to explain this? Okay, there was a really, really big trend 10, 12 years ago where you would start the movie in the middle of the action and then explain everything around it as it went. And sometimes that worked really well, and sometimes it was complete dog shit.
Oh, yeah. And also, like, the overall conceit of having a character who has amnesia, has no idea what the hell's even happening and has to piece it together. Very common trope, not just in normal storytelling, but very common in science fiction storytelling.
Yeah, very common in science fiction storytelling, but like one that did it, I thought did it really, really, really well was Moon by Duncan Jones.
Moon's a great example of one that does it well. Pandorum does it pretty well.
Pandorum did a great job. Yeah.
Pandorum does it pretty well. Something that's in common with all the movies that I found did it very well. In those movies, most of the action, the stuff that happens in the movie, is the stuff that happens in the present. The flashbacks that tell you what originally happened that got us there just fill in the gaps.
Yeah, they fill in the gaps. Unfortunately, this movie splits it a little more evenly between the past and the present.
Yeah, a lot of the core, like what you would call action sequences are flashbacks.
Yeah, that was a problem.
It was, because part of the problem with it is it's involving a lot of characters that, because we spent more time in the present than in the past.
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, they're already dead. We haven't spent a lot of time with them. We don't have the emotional connections to them.
Yeah, because we already know they're dead.
Yeah, whereas we do have emotional connections to the main character and the Aaron Paul character that she's talking to throughout the movie because we've gotten to know them throughout the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And there is one really good reveal in the movie.
Oh, there is. Yeah,
that involves the Aaron Paul character. That was really good.
That was a great reveal.
I still like Kuzo more.
Yeah, Kuzo, I think, is overall, like, more of a masterpiece than this.
Yes.
This one has more flaws to it, but you can still tell it's from the same auteur.
Yeah.
All the problems it has, basically, is the difference between this movie being, like, an A+ and a B+.
Yeah.
Overall, overall, I enjoyed the movie and I had a good time with it. A good way to put it is I wish that the flashbacks were just the movie.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Instead of doing this whole mystery of going back and trying to figure out what happened, I just wish we started with the conflict that starts off in the flashbacks.
Yeah.
And had that be the movie. Granted, it would make it more similar to some other really popular science fiction movies, but then again, the current structure is similar to other movies too.
So
either way,
not going to win for losing on that one.
Either way, you're going to be reminiscent to something, and I'd prefer you be reminiscent to something while also being the better movie.
Yes.
If there was just more things happening in the present that isn't just like all regulated to flashbacks, because those flashbacks are some awesome sequences.
Yeah, they are. Or if they had done a thing where the character is re-experiencing their memories, so you don't know whether she's looking at the present or the past.
That could be interesting. That could
have worked.
Sure. There's a little bit of that throughout the movie, but you could have like amped that up a lot more.
Yeah.
And it definitely would have suited Flying Lotus's mindfucky style.
Yeah. But and at that point, it would have been more like The Machinist.
Yeah, fair. 100%. But I do want to bookend this with the other thing I absolutely adored about this movie, which is the score of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Flying Lotus goes like full John Carpenter with the score of this movie. But what I really like about it is that it's a little bit more electronic than even John Carpenter usually does. And what's cool about it is that it integrates with the Foley sounds of the space base that they're in. So like the alert sounds when something's going wrong, or just the normal sounds of the comings and goings of the ship are like integrated into the soundtrack. So it's almost got this like musical rhythm to it.
Yeah. It's probably the most brilliant aspect of the movie.
Absolutely. 100%.
Like, so you're like, oh, does Flying Lotus use his musical?
Yep.
Yes, he does.
And also, the body horror in this movie, it takes a while to get to it. Third act is when the body horror starts to hit. And when it does, the movie is mwah.
Yeah.
Fires on all cylinders. There's some great gnarly practical mixed with digital effects in this movie, and I think it was done pretty seamlessly. And with that said, my fellow gorehounds, this movie is currently available in theaters, but I saw that Shudder logo in front of the movie, so it'll definitely be hitting Shudder at some point later this year. I do not know when, just, keep looking. Hopefully it'll hit there soon. And with that said, my fellow gorehounds, let us move on to the spoiler section so we can talk about the third act and all the stuff that's kind of groovy about it.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay, so the aspect of her amnesia that you're like, oh, I bet I know what happened here, which is she's the one who's killed everybody.
Yes, that's the twist.
Yeah.
There's other twists.
There are other twists, but that's the one that answers the first mystery.
Because at the beginning of the movie, she is under the belief that her other friend did it, but it's basically revealed that no, she did it.
Yeah.
This is all her fault. She let the alien creature in the first place that did this. She's also the one who refused to listen to protocol that would allow people to have escaped when they needed to, and this results in everyone being infected by the creature, very Thing style. It like takes over their bodies, and then you can't trust them anymore, and now they're super dangerous. And eventually it takes over her body and finishes off the last remaining crew members that weren't killed by the first people that were possessed by the creature. It's very The Hidden, the way the thing scurries into people's bodies and shit.
And one of the great side characters is the med pack.
Oh, yes.
There's a med pack that opens up, and it's like a little droid surgeon.
Yep. A Japanese med pack.
Yeah.
So it speaks Japanese the whole time, and it performs surgeries on you. Though I will say this, I was a little surprised the thing didn't, initiate any anesthesia during any of its surgery.
Yeah, apparently it's just like, all right, here we go.
Time to rip you open. Though there is that cool sequence when it, pulls, the parasite out of her, cut on her head.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes, that was pretty neat.
That's a great example of some of the great body horror in this movie. The thing I will say, though, is that the most awesome sequence in this movie for me is the sequence when it finally shows you the flashback of the creature taking over the crew members one by one.
Yeah.
It's done in this extended action sequence flashback, and they got the guy from The Raid to play one of the guys who gets infected. So he's doing like kung fu moves while fighting people. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Pandorum in that way.
Yes, yeah.
But less quick cutty. It's filmed a lot better in this movie than it is in Pandorum. I love Pandorum, but I hate the quick cutting in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
That sequence is really awesome, but it does highlight my one problem with this movie is that all the characters that are dying in that sequence, we haven't spent any time with them, with the exception of like one scene earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
So we don't have the emotional impact of their deaths the way we should, whereas we do have the like, you know, the wow factor of this is awesome.
Yeah.
But it would have been cool to have the wow factor and the emotional impact at the same time. And plus, there is a bit of like a slowdown at the midpoint of the movie where the movie starts to lull for a little bit, and you're just kind of like, okay, I need something to happen. Let's pick this up. And that's when we finally get that flashback, and the movie just starts like speeding through the last act at that point.
Yeah, but probably the best twist is, okay, so Aaron Paul comes in and is like, hey, I'm answering the distress call. While she is in the station alone with him, she comes across his dead body.
Yeah. You basically find out that the Aaron Paul character is actually the creature inside her head, who has taken the form of Aaron Paul in her head and has been trying to steer her in certain directions throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
Basically, it wants to get off of the rock and up into the spaceship so that it can continue and spread and yada, yada, yada. And it needs her to do that because Aaron Paul's dead.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, was an awesome twist, because that was a part I had not entirely predicted.
Yeah, me neither.
Her being the one who was actually possessed by the alien and killed everyone, that was pretty obvious to me for most of the movie.
Yeah.
As much as they kept saying, oh, we gotta worry about her, no, it's gonna turn out she's gonna show up, and it's gonna turn out that she's actually trying to protect herself from you, the person who's actually possessed. That's what's gonna happen. And that's pretty much what happens. I do love the sequence when she's talking to the alien directly.
Yeah, it's more interesting when that happens.
Once all the cards are on the table and she knows the truth and the creature is just communicating to her as the alien creature and explaining to her, hey, this is our planet, we're terraforming it, you can't have it.
You can't have it.
You know? That's the other thing. It's not really a twist, it's more of a reveal early on in the movie. They came to this planet to terraform this planet only to find another device that was already terraforming the planet when they got there. That obviously belonged to a completely different species than the human race.
Yeah, and it's a virus-like species.
Yes, which is really cool because you get to watch it like take over the internal mechanisms of the ship.
Yeah.
They like pull off panels and it's like grown over all the electronics and shit. It's pretty cool. I love that.
Yeah.
One detail I really did like is that when it actually does start to show the flashbacks, in the flashbacks, the spacesuits that they're wearing, the like hazmat / spacesuits that they're wearing, look more like the kind of spacesuits that we're used to seeing humans have.
Yeah, but as we go forward in time, they start having these extra biomechanical bits on them.
The spacesuits that she's wearing throughout the entirety of the present sequence look like they're more H.R. Geiger-esque.
Yeah, because they have like they're like glowing skeleton bits and shit, you know?
Yeah, and like the cords that connect to things don't look like cords. They got like little scaly bits on them.
Yeah.
And I thought at first, because that's what we're introduced to first, that's just the way, you know, technology evolves. But then when you see what their original suits looked like, you're like, oh no, that's the alien infecting even the suits.
Yeah, that was a detail about the alien I really liked, which is like, oh no, it infects technology as well.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't have that creeping evil feeling that you got from like The Thing, which was clearly a big inspiration.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason is actually the structure.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because by necessity, that means the creature is basically a non-entity for most of the story.
Yeah, it's hidden, you know.
Whereas in The Thing, because it's actually taking place in the present, we're watching the thing go from one person to another, but we don't know which people it's going to.
Right.
The Thing is an ever-creeping presence throughout that entire story. Whereas this movie, that part of the story is all in the flashback.
Yeah.
The way the movie works now almost feels like a video game. It's a lot of a character, until Aaron Paul shows up, it's a lot of a character walking around alone, looking at stuff in the ship and trying to piece together memories of what happened. And then once Aaron Paul shows up, it's like that one character interaction you have in like a survival horror game.
Yeah.
Where otherwise you're alone in the fucking thing the whole time.
Yeah.
There's something very video game-esque about it that I can't quite put my finger on, but like I definitely felt it. I know this vlog is about to end, but I do want to highlight one other thing I really loved about this movie. The moment when Aaron Paul's face opened up.
Oh my God,
in the last act.
Yeah.
That was great. When it was like straight up something out of Dead Space.
Yeah.
That was great. So yeah, that's the long and short of Ash. It is a science fiction body horror film that has some flaws, but is overall the obvious vision of an auteur.
Oh yeah.
And if you're interested in that auteur style, then you should definitely check this out. And with that said, my fellow gorehounds, where can they find you, Count Jackula?
Oh, you can find me here on YouTube every weekday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where I stream and I talk about my life, my day, horror movies, monsters, and other groovy things, and of course, Satan. How about you?
Y'all know me, I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me on various social media platforms, but these days, I primarily use Blue Sky, so follow me on there. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you're notified of my videos immediately upon their upload. And if you'd like to help out either of us more directly, be sure to check out our Patreon pages, and remember, if you decide to go the Patreon route, even $1 a month can go a long way, but we will certainly accept more. And if you made it this far into the video, then I want you to comment below. Be sure to comment below using the hashtag #PullItOut. Use the hashtag #PullItOut, that way I know. That way Jack knows. That way the whole world knows that you have a parasite in your brain and you need a Japanese robot to pull it out without any anesthetic. Oof.
Because that would be wrong.
That would be wrong. Anyway, peace out, my fellow gorehounds, and we'll catch y'all later.